Yes, we are reviewing Infinity Nikki, a game that, well, at first glance seems not to fit in with my other content, but this is somewhat of an isekai, so you know what that means. I am reviewing it and adding it to my collection. So, how did we end up here? Well, that is quite a simple story. After finishing Sword Art Online Freactured Daydream, or more like Freactured Nightmare, I really was searching for a simple game to relax with. You know, just to roam around in it a little bit, do some fun, simple gameplay thingies that are not overly complicated, catching up on some lore videos or interesting topics. And all in all, I just wanted a simple but good time, and hopefully something nice to make a review about. See? Simple story. But what is not so simple is reviewing it. Of course, the obvious fact that this video might not be relevant for long, but the actual main reason why it's not that simple is on display at the Steam page. There you can see that Infinity Nikki is in rough waters. Infinity Nikki was released on Epic a couple of months before the Steam release. This of course means that this game had already a fair share of updates and got a big one together with the Steam release itself. Meaning that my review starts at the 1.5 version. And boy, what a version it turns out to be for the fanbase. Calling this update controversial would be an understatement. Because whenever you look this game up, be that on the before mentioned Steam page, or YouTube, or just simply googling it, you will be instantly taken into the storm of angry and disappointed fans that rightfully so rages around this update. And while I would love to delve deeper into the controversial itself, I won't be doing that here. Not only because there are already a lot of good videos covering the events by day one players, but my goal here is to offer information about the game to people who are new to this game, just like I was a couple of weeks ago. This angry storm is justified, and I will mention and discuss it a little bit where needed, but I don't want this game or my review to be consumed by it, because there are some good things in this game. Things that I want other people to see, know about, and potentially experience themselves. Now with that all being said, instead of spoilering more parts of my review, let's just dive into it and see what Infinity Nikki has to offer. Infinity Nikki opens with what I can only describe as a space trip of lots, and I do mean lots of term dropping, complicated usage of words that hold no real context or merit to the player or the story, and just a big mess everywhere in between that. A nice looking big mess, but a big mess nonetheless. It tries too hard to be meaningful and deep with dialogue about time, cycle of destruction of the world and universe, Nikki's forgotten backstory, and so on. And in all honesty, it's better to not pay too much attention to this opening. It's the tutorial, and a good looking one, and thankfully the game manages to recover itself after this by soft restarting again with another opening where not only the story is introduced, but the world itself is set up properly. After this space trip, Nikki ends up in a world called Mirrorland. This world is not the same as the one Nikki comes from. It's almost a fairy tale world of beauty and magic, with one very unique aspect. For you see, in this world, clothing holds magical powers and is wielded by stylists. What exactly does a stylist do? Well, as stated, channel magical power via outfits to glide around the world, purify evil, help people, catch fish, bugs, pet some animals, and all other sorts of things. After learning about this, Nikki decides to join the Stylist Guild and becomes a stylist herself. And soon after, she is tasked with her first mission, which is to investigate and unravel the mystery of people falling into comas. On this mission, Nikki of course meets loads of people, makes friends, and uncovers unique outfits and grows as a stylist. In my opinion, this is what the story premise really is and what the game in general is all about. A girl that suddenly ends up isekai'd into a magical world who wants to help its people, uncover a big mystery, and make dresses. Not this space cosmic goddess time cycle sea of stars universe ending mumbo jumbo. And before the 1.5 update, the devs actually thought the same thing, as the first opening actually captured the story idea a lot better. Yet with that update, they got rid of the original opening and replaced it with this space trip opening, which is one of the things the community is very mad about. And honestly, you can count me in on that as well. The original opening made so much more sense story-wise. It highlighted the fact that Nikki got isekai'd into the world. how she got certain power and a certain position. And the world, atmosphere and setting was set up much better overall. Though, as I was playing the game and going through the story, I was questioning if the opening change really mattered in the first place. I can't say for certain about the original opening as I only saw a playthrough of it, but to me it seemed more like it properly established the atmosphere for the main story than actually tell the main story. In this opening, Nikki gets isekai'd into this new world, but after it has zero interest to return back to her own. And there are no traces to be found throughout the entire story that can some way lead back or connect to this original opening. Again, to me it just felt more like the setup for the atmosphere itself than the main story, which is something that it does much better than the new opening does. But even there, in the new opening, it seems like Nikki has no interest, nor does the story really resolve or connect to it once it's concluded. All she wants is to become the best stylist and create miracle outfits. It's really that simple, and that is where the main strength of the story lies, in my opinion. Its simplicity. And thankfully, after the horrendous opening, the game sticks with this simplicity, making the story a real joy to follow, uncovering an interesting mystery with fun, even relatable characters, with struggles that reflect day-to-day life problems on a personal or society level. But it was the world itself that for me was the true highlight of the game. As you might know, I have a sweet spot for weird, unique or unorthodox settings, worlds and stories, and Infinity Nikki's world falls in that category to a certain degree. Because we're talking about a game that takes place in a world where clothing, or to be more precise, outfits, contain magical powers, but also a world where wishes of people actually have somewhat of a physical presence. Creatures created by gods a long time ago live on this world, and history of wars and conflicts based on historical beliefs and heritage. There are many interesting aspects to delve into, explore and understand, which surprised me greatly. I expected this game to be a direct opposite of this. Be all lighthearted in its writing and lore, taking itself not seriously with the world building it offers, because dresses give special powers, fantasy castles, fun cutesy animals everywhere and things like that. I mean, it's all there in the game, but it's written with a serious tone and intent, which is what I really loved, enjoyed and even a little bit respected. Whenever I was roaming around through the world, it gave a sense of age, that was a history to the land I was exploring. Now, not everything is explained or spelled out in terms of history or lore, but in my opinion, that doesn't need to be. This sense of age also came through in the story itself. Conflicts arise based on events from the past. Things are told and uncovered about them as you go along in the story, and that is what kept it interesting as well. But it's not to a level that it's overburdening. Again, its writing is seriously but not overly complicated or deep like the opening, or at least what the opening is trying to do, I guess. As I said earlier, it stays simplistic, and that's where the strength of the story lies. Now, in terms of gameplay, Infinity Nikki promises exploration in an open world filled with content like quests, collectibles, puzzles, crafting items and so on. It's a premise that is not new to open world games. In fact, usually when game devs or publishers take center stage and start spewing these open world buzzwords around, I cringe a little and lose interest in the game they're talking about. Because open world usually means a large empty world where a group of people collectively sneezed content on and called it a day. In recent years, there have been people that claim certain games broke that formula or did open world in a good way, but whenever I listen to those people and start playing the game, I still get burned, because the changes are so little that it all still feels the same to me. And here in Infinity Nikki, the same rules apply. However, I found it more bearable at times and even enjoyable, as the design and usage of the open world didn't go as overboard as I'm used to. The first big plus of this game is that the overall world in Infinity Nikki feels big, but in reality is rather small. It's easy to traverse and explore, and while distances look far away, it usually takes less than a couple of minutes to get there. On top of that, the game offers a large variety in transportation. The map is divided in multiple regions, and rather than having loads of landmarks and locations, it usually has one or two main landmarks, and makes those places the place to be for most of the content you will be doing. Some locations do look cooler or are more interesting than others, of course, but overall each region looked and felt as their own unique place. each changing the scenery enough to make it feel like they are miles apart even though they are a stone throw away from each other. And you don't have to travel across Miraland alone. In the 1.5 update, multiplayer was introduced. There is also a whole map where multiplayer is the main focus, but that map basically is a multiplayer lobby with random people doing their own thing. It's still very underdeveloped. But in your own version of Miraland, so to say, you can invite a friend to tag along with you on your adventures. Obviously, as I don't really have any friends that I could convince playing this game with me, I played this game mostly alone, with a rare occasion of multiplayer together with some random people. The multiplayer itself works alright and I did not run into any technical difficulties, but unless you are with a friend, doesn't really add anything to your experience, as communicating with randoms is a little bit difficult. To be fair, this is the update that just introduced multiplayer, but it does need more content to actually stimulate play multiplayer with each other, because now it's more or less just 2 Nikkis exploring the same world instead of 1. There are also some semi-multiplayer aspects here and there, which I enjoyed a lot more. For one, you can send wishing bottles whom other players can find and pick up, gaining an item and look at one of your cool photos that you put in them. The other is placing hourglasses in Miraland itself that show off a picture you made at that exact spot. People can like it and even use it to make group photos, which is really cool. But in the end, exploring the world itself is mostly done for the collectibles, loot chests and quests. This is usually the part I am not looking forward to, but I was happily surprised by how natural it felt going after these collectibles, finding chests and doing quests in this world. Its main strength is the diversity in collectibles and the tasks that you have to do to collect them. You go from simple platforming, timed collecting races, to puzzles or fighting an horde of monsters and purify them. Each task alone is nothing special, arguably even a bit boring for longer stretches of time, but it's the collective of all these aspects that makes them alright and enjoyable. Whatever you are collecting at that point doesn't really matter either. Again, the fun is more in the diversity of the content than the rewards. Now, for how long the fun remains is a question to be asked. For me, it actually stayed throughout my entire playthrough fun, though the game's atmosphere also heavily tributed to making it very relaxing. Especially with the music, it was very easy to just drift off and slow down. And the game even deliberately slows you down further on certain aspects as well, like the main story. Each chapter can only be unlocked every other day by completing daily missions and having the appropriate stylist rank, which you unlock by completing achievements. Getting to this threshold was very easy and I ended up just waiting for the next day so I could continue. Which sounds annoying, but actually was really nice, because when joining in on ongoing multiplayers or gacha games, I usually feel the urge to catch up ASAP with the current endgame so I can participate in events and be more efficient in the overall game. This usually leads to getting burned out by the game and sometimes even completely stops me from getting to the endgame because I get so burned out of it. But being forced to play on a slower pace and focus on other things after doing my daily bits of story made me not only enjoy the story more, but explore a lot of content beyond it. Like the many side quests this game has to offer, which diverge between simply gathering to point out hidden characters in photos, trivia of landmarks, or small side stories of an area. As I am jumping into this game at the 1.5 update, there's also some old event content that can be done as well, which was also a decent amount of fun. Other side content like platform runs are okay, they are just resource checks in my opinion. Achievement hunting was a lot more fun, and of course the most important aspect of a dress-up game, crafting and putting together outfits, which is a very good, very nice aspect of this game. There are a lot of different styles of outfits and choices in terms of hairstyles and accessories, enough for basically anyone to make their favorite outfits. Yet whenever I spend a reasonable amount of time on compiling an outfit, the thought that the aspect not nearly enough captures the potential started to creep in. For example, you have all these cool looking fairy tale looking outfits and dresses, but in terms of basic pieces there is a lot to be desired. Then you have the dyeing system, so you can dye your favorite piece of clothing to your heart's desire. But to do this, you need a special currency to unlock other colors, which then only unlock a certain set of colors for the selected piece of clothing, not the entire color itself. Meaning if you want to do a lot of trial and error for your outfits, there is not a lot of room for mistakes, as dyeing is limited by resources. And worse, not all pieces of clothing are dyeable. The game devs decides which clothes can be dyed and which ones can't. You can unlock some different color variations, but that is obviously not nearly what you want. You don't want to get into the situation where you created the perfect outfit and the only thing you need to do to make it work now is dye a couple of more pieces of clothing. Only to find out that the devs decided that this particular piece can't be dyed. This is just very frustrating and in my opinion goes against what the core design idea of a dress-up game should be. Of course, maybe in the future they will release a dyeable version of this clothing piece, or even a better clothing piece that will finish off this outfit. Yet, there's no guarantee that they will. And there's also no guarantee that you will be able to get that piece as a free-to-play player. Still, the options and overall content that is available, including for free-to-play players, is still huge. But I was also worried for the moment when I would run out of content and dread that that moment would come at some point during my playthrough. I mean, we all know playing games like this that eventually you will end up playing the game lesser and lesser as time goes on and get into a daily login routine for rewards. Because no matter what kind of player you are, milking the free aspect is the endgame in games like this. The key rewards you will be playing this game for at later stages are rare items to craft new clothing, stars and skill levels to upgrade your Infinity Heart, dues of inspiration and items to glow up outfits. All in some margin work towards certain unlocks, but more importantly, premium currency and items that will give you a shot at the loot boxes, or as they call it here, resonance. Now, are these loot boxes and microtransaction items good or fair? Well, that is where a large part of the current fanbase Angry Storm is located. From how I see it, as a semi-seasoned gacha player that joined in at the 1.5 version of this game, I would say it's alright, leaning a bit towards the fairer side of things when playing early game to mid game, as you have unlockable free currency and items at a steady flow, and for endgame it leans more towards the unfair side of things, because as you would expect you will be running out of ways to earn significant amounts of premium currencies as you progress through the game for free. Once that free source dries up, the more difficult it will be to collect new outfits from these loot boxes. You can of course opt to buy more currency, which enters the scummy levels of pricing for loot boxes. At this point I'd rather have them say, this outfit will cost you X amount of money, instead of giving me a chance at a full outfit for X amount of money, but potentially it will cost me more if my RNG is very bad. On top of that, in the past, these loot boxes had a much fairer threshold to complete these outfits. Before, these outfits consisted of 9 pieces or less, and you are more or less guaranteed to get 1 piece for every 20 pulls. There's no chance on dupes, which is nice and fair. But with the current update, the drop rate stayed the same. Dupes are still avoided, but the threshold to complete an outfit was changed to 11. Which they cleverly did by adding items you can't see or notice in the full outfit, which again is a bit scummy. It artificially makes it more difficult for players to get the full outfit. And of course, logically, you want to complete outfits because that will give you the most rewards. Now, there are also some other items in the store that you can buy, and it does have once in a while some nice giveaway outfits. As of writing this, a bike was also in the store and a bathtub, which some fans claim have fake discount prices. But all in all, the options to buy things and get sped up progress is kept at a low, and you as the player won't be scraping the bottom of the barrel like in other gacha games trying to make progress. But in the end, just like all these free-to-play games, there will come a time where the fun of free gifts will be replaced by the urgency to pay. Now if that's worth it, hard to say to be fair. I spent some of my review budget on this game halfway through my playthrough. I bought the infamous season pass and a value deal for premium currency that would be paid out to me in parts over 30 days. Again, I rather would have just paid for an outfit an X amount of price instead of loot boxes, which is kinda rich coming from me as I'm a guy that really likes gacha loot boxes in real life. Still, the month pass gave some decent rewards, but leveling it up was also locked on a weekly timer, which sure, the resources gained were good for late game and potentially created a snowball effect, making me gain more resources over longer periods of time, but it was still a kind of bit annoying. There was even a cute little outfit for my pet, but all in all, leveling this month pass did not feel rewarding in the slightest. No unique outfits, high value amounts of drops for loot boxes, and heck, on that aspect it was even very cheap with its rewards. As honestly, I bought it and completed it in the end. The value deal for premium currency that required me to log in for 30 days felt a bit fairer, though if you calculated what it gives you every day, it boils down to 1 pull for an item each day and 30 pulls for an entire month. And that is not a lot. And the problem is that you want a lot of pulls, because the outfits themselves not only just look great, it felt rewarding collecting them, as it felt like you put in a lot of effort to get enough of the currency to get here. And on top of that, all these outfits come with unique, cool connected skills, like hovering instead of gliding, or water walking. That's cool stuff, and while I think for a free-to-play game, it's fine to put these things further out of reach for free-to-play players than pay-to-play players. But at the end of my playthrough, I reached a point where it did not matter if I was a free-to-play or paying player. Everything felt far out of my reach to be obtained. Just before recording this review, they dropped 3 complete new outfit sets. Now these were not the greatest, so I'm not going for it, but there is no way for a paying player to get these without sinking a huge amount of money into this game. And as a free-to-play player, you shouldn't even start at these. It really pains me that every free-to-play gacha game ends up in a situation like this. It doesn't pain me that I have to pay for something. It pains me because I think it's a dumb situation to get stuck in the first place. As some players stated, when the threshold of outfits was lower, like it used to be, they were much more lenient to spend more money on it. Think about it, if it feels in arm's reach, you are more likely to go for it. But instead of going down that path, Infinity Nikki went down the direct opposite path with this update. And it will leave people behind and shrink the community. And without it, I don't see this game survive. A live service game is a community-driven game, and it requires a happy community to strive and move forward. And this community was very happy, and there were loads of people playing it. If the devs make those people unhappy and doesn't reassure improvements in the future, it's bound to fail. Look no further for proof at games in the past. Fail does not necessarily mean the end of a game. Some games will meet its end because the community gave up on the game, while others will survive on its hardcore loyal community. But in the end, it will just be a mere shadow of its former self, and a husk compared to its once promising potential. And I don't want to see this game go down that path, because I really started to like this game a lot. It's so good. It's relaxing, it's fun, it's comfy, and the best of all, from start to finish this game can be experienced without spending a single cent on anything. And what you get to experience is actually pretty good. Even amazing when you consider that it's free. The story told after the space trip opening was fun, actually had some decent messages to tell, and a very relaxing atmosphere. It takes place in a world that is completely built around magical outfits and quite lore-rich world. Yet it takes itself seriously, but not too seriously. The gameplay loop is something to truly drift away on, swapping between many different types of gameplay mechanics, yet nothing is overly complicated or difficult. Eventually, the game does go a bit on the back burner when you completed the story and did most of the available content. Yet that is easily 40 to 50 hours later, and even then, if you stick around for events and such, you will be able to have periods of time where you can be more invested into the game beyond your daily routine. Paying, as of writing of this review, is truly an optional thing here. You get a full game for free. Spending money is more interesting if you want to support the game itself, or to skip late game grinds, or if you are a gacha junkie like me. The items that you can obtain are cool and have value, but unlike other free-to-play gacha games, they are not required to reach a stage of endgame or even to consider the game finished or completed. And on that free-to-play base, I would definitely recommend checking this game out. If you had any interest or intent to play this game, I say go for it. It's fun, it's relaxing, has nice outfit customization, and has surprisingly good story. Though in the end, don't fool yourself, this is still a gacha game. Even though paying is not a requirement, it still has its gacha designs and is there to find ways to get your money. But honestly, in my opinion, that is not the biggest problem. The biggest problem in my opinion with the game right now is not its current state per se, but its future. With the current attitude and response of the devs towards the community, it does not look good, and it seems like the game keeps going down the wrong path. Which truly has me worried, because I'm really invested into this game right now. More than I originally thought. But we already seen them change the opening drastically, and not for better. Some changes in the threshold of outfits and the dice system seems to be made just to rake in loads of money, instead of keeping it fair for everyone. Who knows, maybe they will change it back, learn from certain mistakes, listen to the community and become a little bit more fair again. Or they will change the entire game experience that I just covered in my review, and this video will serve as a time capsule than anything else. I hope not, but only time will tell. But I will be there covering it.